And Franz, you're going to be telling us about a couple of very important Chinese economic developments. So do you want to take us through that?
Yeah. Well, I think there are two things that are worth us talking about. One is that Standard Bank in South Africa, um, a week or two ago, adopted China's cross-border interbank payment system, or CIPS. Now, what CIPS is the Chinese rival to the SWIFT system, which these systems allow transactions to happen between financial institutions around the world. And SWIFT, you might think of as a Western payment system. And if you're cut off from something like SWIFT, you can't transact financially at all. You're completely paralyzed. And after the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, which I word differently to the Russian invasion, the West made what I think was a terrible strategic mistake. To punish Russia, they cut it off from the SWIFT system, and they said, we'll show you. We'll cut you off, and you can't transact. And amongst others, our friend Davy Ruot was marooned in Russia. His credit card didn't work anymore because of this. This sort of thing happened. And it was a terrible mistake because it created, well, from a Western perspective, it created a strategic opportunity for China. Because probably the most important thing in the world to watch about who will control the world through the rest of your lives, if you listen to this, is the battle between China and America over the global reserve currency. And China's, I'd say, single most important strategic objective is to displace the dollar as the global reserve currency. Because if it achieves that, it fatally weakens the United States. And the reason is that if the US is a reserve currency, it can print away its deficit without too serious a consequence. But you can't do that if you're not a reserve currency. So if it's no longer a reserve currency, it can't print its deficit away, causes a domestic economic crisis. Second thing the dollar as a reserve currency allows America to do is to lend money to other countries. And anyone that borrows money from someone knows that who you borrowed the money from has leverage on you. And if the dollar falls away as the reserve currency, America can't lend, and its arguably primary foreign policy tool is disabled. And if you think about America not having the dollar as a reserve currency, both from its domestic economic situation and its global influence, it is a much diminished global power. And in the relative order of things, China's influence rises. Now, what do you need to be if you want to be a reserve currency? You need two things. You need a vast stockpile of gold, and China has been developing one. The figures that are reported are probably an undercount, but it's enormous. The trend line of Chinese gold buying. And it's becoming moving towards a number, whatever the number is, that could anchor such a currency. The second thing you need is a payment system that works in your currency, that can't be disabled by the other side. And when the West cut Russia off from SWIFT, it didn't just cause a problem in Russia. It caused a global problem because anyone that traded, any other country, realized the West are going to use this payment system as a weapon against us. And we are very vulnerable, and we better move to something else. And that accelerated the uptake of the Chinese CIPS system. And it was therefore of enormous significance that South Africa's Standard Bank adopted the CIPS system about a week ago. It's a huge step on Africa in favor of China ultimately wresting geostrategic control of the continent from its Western rivals, and it wasn't understood here at all for how important it was.
Thanks, Franz. And the second thing that you're going to tell us about is that China's had a good record goods trade surplus. So maybe tell us what that means.
The story's along the same lines. In November, China recorded a goods trade surplus, so that's the difference between the goods it exports and the goods it imports, of over $1 trillion. And it is the first time that number has been reached at that point in the year, 11 months into the year. And what is so particularly striking about this record number is that it happens in the year that the US sought to tariff and sanction Chinese exports. The US idea was we'd tariff much of the world and we'd use that as leverage, and a particular target was China that was threatened with these higher and higher tariffs. And in fact, what has happened through that year is that China experienced a just under 6% year-on-year increase in goods exports. And it did so despite, let me just call up exactly the number, a 28% fall, 29% fall in shipments to the United States. And what China has done should worry Western thinkers and Americans in particular. It built alternative markets very quickly, and it has continued to invest in tech and efficiency in manufacturing and industrial capacity. That means that it can sail through a year of US tariffs and come out on the other side much stronger than before. And if you are an American strategist thinking you can push back the Chinese economy and its export manufacturing capacity, you have to think twice, because it's won this year. It beat you. It beat you at your own game. You're in fact inheriting a whirlwind of cost pressures in the US that now rank as the number one political issue in that country, and China's got these record numbers. The growth came across industries of what they exported, and very strong growth into Europe, very strong growth into broader Southeast Asia as well. So these two stories go quite nicely together, that as we spoke now with Simon's stuff on London about if you look at the immediate situation, you have a particular view. But if you position in the longer term, just on these two examples that I've cited for you, you would have to begin to think that maybe China is getting the upper hand, or has an upper hand, in the struggle for global dominance over the next 20 or 30 years. Gabriel.